me do that shit.
I'm just gonna be me. My lady's gonna be her, and however that rubs off on them. But when it comes to being like a good person and treating people a certain way, treating life a certain way, just all the things that I think I maybe didn't have growing up, conversations with my father, things like that, things that I could have benefited from. Any knowledge and wisdom that I have gained over the years from my mistakes and my hard-headedness and my self-centeredness, all that stuff. I hope I've destroyed myself enough, which I have, and gotten to put myself in positions to where I've had to look at myself and look at myself for a long time and get some humility and all that stuff. I hope I don't forget, and I can pass on to them to not make to make better decisions, look at life a little bit differently, you know?
Where does your sense of humility come from? And you talk about looking at yourself. What do you mean by that?
I think because, let's see, well, I've just been in positions in life, when I got older that I was not proud of. And you start to realize you're not, perfect's not even the word. Like you're just capable of fucking up. You're capable of not being looked at in a positive light. You're just, and I think you can go through that for a long time and still not realize, like the effects it has on your life. So yeah, I mean, if you spend time in jail, if you go to rehabs, if you're, all that stuff, it's, you're looking at yourself and you're like, how did I get here? And how you start to have more compassion for the people around you that you see going through struggles like that. So that's a good question, man. Like the humility topic.
Like what makes you feel humble? As a lot of people look at you as a style icon within skateboarding. And not to say that doesn't come with humility, but when people think of you who don't know you, who've never met you,
yeah,
they think of a style icon. They think of like, OG legendary skateboarder type of thing like that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy. Cause all that stuff that the things that you just said, if I ever hear something like that, I'm very uncomfortable hearing stuff like that. Because I never thought I was good enough, or as good as the professional skateboarders that were out there when I turned pro, and I don't know what that is. I mean, that's a whole thing you can get into with psychology, about how you look at yourself, how you view yourself and your self-esteem and how you are as a person. And if that's the reason why you always feel like less than or not as good, like not good enough. Or so when I hear like legend or icon or like style or all that stuff is very amazing to hear, but I still cringe because I don't know why. I still don't know why. I cringe. And I guess I'd rather cringe than be all about it and accepting it and be like, yeah, that's right. Like, and I don't know. I just, it's just not me. And it surprises me because sometimes I'll look at myself skate on, like, don't get me wrong. When I was younger, when I'd already turned pro and I was skateboarding at whatever level I was skateboarding at, I was at a good place with myself in skateboarding where I would look at the clips that I got filmed and be very happy about them. I'd look at them and be like, I like that. That looked good. And I think there was a confidence there that, couldn't be denied. So it didn't matter what people thought. I still liked what I did and I thought it looked good. And at that time it fit what was going on with skateboarding and it was going to be well received. And I was happy about that. And then like as I got older, it kind of started to get less and less, and I started to get more critical of my skating. And I don't know if that came with being in the spotlight, sort of, so to speak, in skateboarding, and becoming a little bit more uncomfortable with like being recognized in skateboarding and being spoken about in a positive light. I don't know, just it's a head trip. But yeah, it's still, you know, I tend to think it's bullshit a lot of times. Like, you know, my lady can speak to me a lot, and if I'm maybe not speaking so positively about myself, and she can you know, lift my spirits up and say things, but there's a part of me that feels like, yeah, it's all bullshit. It's all you know.
Even though you've been hearing it for however many years.
I guess I you know,
like, when did that shit start? When did people start saying that?
I don't even know. I think it was more like it was definitely, it felt like it was when social media and all like the, you know, the outlets started becoming more, I don't know, in abundance. And I guess maybe I'm just learning that that's just kind of that kind of thing can happen, and it's over time. And it's like, it takes time for things that people do to sit around and then stand the test of time, and then you start to think, wow, people still like something that was done back in 1996, and it's holding weight now. And that's when you start to, you will get a sense of self-respect, a sense of respect for that, the fact that like, wow, that's still holding up, and that's cool, and it's still like people think looks good. And so I don't think you will know until time passes. But when did it start? Like it was probably, if I had to think, it's definitely like after the 90s, like in the 2000s. And, you know, maybe because I got older and it was more like looking back on something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're younger and you're getting attention and people are recognizing you, even if it's just in the world of skating, like that's your world.
Yeah.
That's the world you're living in. So people are recognizing you in your world.
Yeah.
How does that feel, and what does that do to your head when you're skating with the illest pro skaters, the people that maybe you looked up to growing up too, and you're part of these teams that are undoubtedly getting worldwide recognition for what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
The video parts are coming out, people are bugging out. With that being the case, and you being like, you know, in your 20s and stuff, what does that do to your mind and also your lifestyle?
I think, let's see, for me, I think it was cool. I think I liked, you know, it was nice to be recognized, or, yeah, you can't deny it feels good to be, I don't know, sort of just recognized, I guess. Like if you put out a video part and then, I don't know, you're going on a tour and you're doing demos and people come to see you, and, you know, just starting to feel this like, this genuine kind of excitement to hang out or go to a demo and watch me skate, or whoever we were with skateboarding. But then I never forget how I felt about all the professionals out there that I loved watching skating, grew up on, and I could never imagine that that's the way kids look at me, the way I looked at them, because it was too, like, they were like gods to me, you know what I mean? And next level, you know, it was my skateboarding, I guess, there was such a love for it that they were the movie stars to me, you know, the guys, the Nodises, the Hensleys, the Vallellis, like those guys. And yeah, I just can never imagine that I make another person feel the same way that I felt. So, and I still feel like that, because I'm still a fan. I'm still a fan of those guys that I grew up on. And yeah, so, but it feels good. I mean, you know, anyone wants to be validated for what they do, you know? So yeah, of course it feels great. And I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of this, like, you know, growing up in my era in 90s, and everybody was like, you know, there was like a code, and everybody was like kind of too cool and had to play that, you didn't do this right, like you're over here, and it was very segregated in that. So I think in my mind, I could have been a dick too, judgmental, and, you know, like, this is the way it's supposed to be in skateboarding. If you're not here, then like you're not, you know, you're not here. You're not. I don't want to even go there.
Versus nowadays, there's like, it's everything is possible.
Yeah.
Even when I started skateboarding, I was 11 when I started skateboarding.
Yeah.
And I can't speak for how it was in the 90s or even like the early 2000s, but I remember it being like, this is the way it is, and that's the way you do it.
Yeah.
And there was no Instagram, and I think YouTube was just coming up. And I would walk into skate shops or my local park, and just as a human, like as a person, I could sense like, oh, there's like a hierarchy here. This is the way, there's a tradition, and these are the people that are the elders. There's like a little fucking society going on over here. And I need to learn this shit. And you would get shitted on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just watching people get shitted on or getting shitted on myself, I'm like, oh fuck, like it kind of made me wake up and be like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the kook.
Yeah.
I really don't want to be a fucking kook. And that was like
Yeah.
my whole thing for a long time. And a lot of people's whole things is like, in skateboarding, you don't want to be a fucking kook. But even in graffiti, like you don't want to be, there's respect amongst the peers and respect amongst the scene. And you want to fall in the line on the side of, you know, you get respect for what you do, how you carry yourself, your knowledge of the history or whatever. And I think that, not that that shit's going away, but I think it's not as like hardcore as it was.
Yeah. I agree. It looks like that from the outside. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, yeah, it was apparent early on that like it's not just like the tricks you do that are going to get you kind of like well received or like you know, there were plenty of skateboarders I remember being younger that were amazing, that were gifted, that were great, but just did not, they had just were missing something. It could be style, it could be the clothes they wear, it could be, but then also carrying yourself, like you said. I mean, you could be a great skateboarder, but if you are, you know, if you're surrounded by a group of guys and you are kind of kooky, then you're not gonna, you know, last really. And that was a big thing for me. It was hard, but also, you know, just kind of, there's so many characters out there. It's just life. It's crazy. Just coming of age, you know, and my coming of age was in skateboarding and California, New York. And yeah, I mean, you're surrounded by a lot of characters, a lot of kids from different places, different upbringings. And you have to kind of, you know, you kind of just, because especially like growing up in Long Island, I had my group of friends, you know, and I was used to acting a certain way with my friends, and I knew what I could get away with, and I knew what I could push, and I knew I could be a goof. And I'm still like, we're still boys. But you can't, you know, you get older, you mingle with new people. You can't just do that anymore. You have to kind of learn to conduct yourself and what's appropriate, what's not. And yeah, it's a big thing. And I think I got definitely caught up in not playing yourself, like type of thing. That was
When you
like
say
big.
not playing yourself, you mean like not being who you are, or just not playing yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. Not being who you are. That's the sad thing is, yeah, you don't want to play yourself. So are you not being yourself? Are you, you know, hiding a part of you that wants to come out, but you're just too like shook to like let yourself be free? And I think a lot of us maybe fall victim to that growing up and being young and coming of age, because we want to be liked and, you know, accepted. So, but I think like, I don't know. I tend to think growing up with the whole hip hop era in '90s and everyone was cool and everything was like tough guy and everything was, you know, that's what seemed to consume my brain. And yeah, and what came with that was never playing yourself and always kind of being cool and always, you know, not showing your ass. And but then like, yeah, you can't deny that the guys that you saw doing that, you know, you admired because they were just being themselves. And you wonder, why can't I just be like that? But that came later on. That came way after, like, oh, I wish I was more not so concerned with how I looked and how I acted, because just spending too much time in your head and not living in the moment and just being yourself. It's, you know, those are the things. Yeah, those are the things I want to pass on to my kids. Just like being yourself and learning like knowing how to conduct yourself. Of course, is important with every industry, I would imagine. I mean, you know. it just comes with, I think that's like a life thing, right? Like with every industry, with everything you do, that's how people have jobs and stay with a job, because they conduct themselves properly, or they, and then there's goofs that kind of get treated as goofs, I guess, and unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hard part, is being yourself. That's one of the fucking hardest things, because you always get influence from the crowd, and you always want to be accepted in the crowd, and you're always thinking about what other people are thinking.
Yeah.
Like even doing this thing, like talking on this microphone and knowing there's a camera there and shit, like it's hard for me to be fully myself, because I'm like trying to just be unfiltered myself, who I am when the shit's not here, when the shit's here. But at the end of the day, I know that there's a fucking camera there and that people are gonna watch it. So even without trying, something inside my fucking brain makes me act ever so slightly differently, because I'm not comfortable knowing that the whole world, even if it's not that many people, or even if it's a lot of people, are gonna watch.
Yeah.
And I think that that's some shit that is just hardwired inside of us.
Yeah.
When you know that the others are watching, or you're the fucking others that you're like imagining are there, that they might not even be there, that's when you start being not yourself.
Yeah.
Or
keeping it basic.
Yeah.
And just not, and that's the thing that I've learned over the years, doing interviews, doing some podcasts, and like being put in a spotlight type of situation that I regret. Like every time I look back at it, I'm like, I wish I would have elaborated a little bit more on things and not been so like direct to the point. Because when I see other people doing interviews that seem to have a little less concern with that stuff, it just looks amazing and it's more interesting, and it's pleasant to watch. So the reason it's nice to continue being offered doing things like this, I would hope that each time I'm getting more and more open with my answers, with my perspective, because I guess for me, it takes those experiences to learn from and kind of, just let things go more. Yeah. But I still have it. Yeah. So we were sitting on the couch talking before I came, and it feels completely different now. I'm in the chair.
That's how it is, man. So it's fucking insane.
Yeah. So I'm trying to, get into it, and unfortunately sometimes by the time you get into it, the interview's over, and then you're like, all right, well, maybe we can get 5 more minutes, but if this feels good, and all I could do is just try to not be too concerned about this shit. I mean,
of course, I mean, from my experience, like I've done over 200 of these. I think like only 100 at this point in time, like I don't know when this is going to come out, but only like 180 whatever, close to 190 are out, but I've done well over 200.
Yeah. Wow.
And still, I'll feel fucking nervous before doing them.
Yeah.
And not only that, but like just now, like I was telling you before, I do martial arts, and there's like white belt, blue belt in jiu-jitsu. There's white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt. Then after black belt, there's stripes, like degrees on your black belt. Then after degrees on your black belt, there's the red belt, the coral belt. You only get that shit if you're an OG.
Yeah.
So like, not to get off topic or nothing, but like, for example, within skateboarding, the only people who would have a coral belt would be like fucking Christian Hosoi would have a coral belt.
Yeah.
But you could still be nasty and have a black belt, but you got to be like a Hosoi person. Then you get that OG belt.
Okay.
So anyways, been doing this for a while, and I feel like I'm just getting to like a blue belt level of feeling comfortable when I do this shit.
Yeah.
Not feeling as nervous. Like I used to plan out the whole shit. Like, oh, we're going to start talking about this, and then that's not how a fucking conversation goes, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's better when, you just popped up in here. We're just shooting the shit. If that was that could already be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how I feel. But,
yeah.
Anyways, back to what we were talking about. A big thing that was a part of skateboarding, and it still is a part of skateboarding, but I do not think, and maybe I don't pay attention as much as I used to, but I don't think it's as big a part of it as it was like the sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle that came with not just being a pro skateboarder, but being a skateboarder, period. Like you want to live that, you want to be that.
Yeah.
And me and my friends would grow up watching videos, particularly like Baker Has a Death Wish, Reynolds, Ellington, Jim Greco, Antoine Dixon, that whole squad.
Yeah.
And like really fucking, that was our shit.
Yeah.
We watched that at night, sleeping over each other's houses. And the next day, because we're like fucking 14 years old, we're going to mimic that. And it gave us a reason to, gave us like we felt like we were a part of something. and felt like we were kind of like outside of the social norm, which was cool. The problem with that shit is a lot of people who I know ended up being for real alcoholics at a super young age.
Yeah.
And luckily, a lot of my best friends that did become for real alcoholics actually, you know, were able to go chill. Like I had this one friend, he would drink, I think it was like 230 racks in a 40 daytime. And this kid, who, you know, is completely fine now, still one of my closest friends.
Yeah.
He was like, I think 20 years old at the time, maybe 19, super young, like but pre-drinking age. And I think that that's not as much a part of it anymore. I don't see, I try to pay attention as much as I can. I go on Quarter Snacks, I go on Thrasher and shit like that. I watch these videos and I don't see the hijinks that I saw.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you'd know better than me. I mean, if you're paying more attention. But yeah, that's a good, I wonder, like, how are the kids these days that are in their 20s being the pro skater traveling? It seems different because it just, well, I mean, the demand on the skating is so much. I don't even know if it's a demand. It's just how much skating is being done now compared to, we used to go on tours and not even skate. Like we would show up at a demo and like if we didn't skate, it was normal. It was like that we just showed up and that was good enough. Like that's kind of fucking crazy, And now it's like you go on a tour, you go do a demo and it's like filmed and there's a video made about it. There's like, clips, it's just, and can you be getting fucked up and partying and being a rock star doing that constantly? Because I mean, the amount of, like, for instance, you see a person like Tiago, right? I mean, how much footage is he putting out? And it's kind of insane when I compare it to the amount of footage that we put out as pros or myself in my day. And it's like I barely, I think maybe my whole body of work is one video part of his, and he's put out I don't know how many. So it's crazy. And with that, how can you be, like, partying every night and getting fucked up and living that lifestyle, but I don't know if I'm off topic, but like it was easier when you're younger. It just was a normal thing to be getting, doing the nighttime thing and then waking up doing the skateboarding thing and then doing the nighttime thing. It just was easier to do when you're young. But what was the actual question? Was it?
I didn't even have one. I was just kind of talking about the sex, drugs, and rock and roll style of life that was portrayed in a lot of skateboarding, and is honestly not just portrayed, but a part of it. That's the appeal. I don't want it to be like baseball. I don't want it to be like a regular sport. I want it to be, we are not actually athletes. We are fucking not athletes. That's just not what that is. I'm not working on like,
it's athletic, of course.
It's athletic,
but
that's what my brain was like. I'm not an athlete, and I don't play a sport either. I just fucking skateboard, dude. But at the end of the day, like, it's mad athletic, and you could benefit from actually being healthy, not just in skateboarding, but in anything.
I mean, if I could turn back the clock, I would have been straight sober like throughout my whole, my whole fucking life, especially skateboarding in the days, I would say more in my 30s as well. I wish I treated skateboarding more seriously in my 30s, because I feel like those are the years that you probably could benefit the most, because, your 20s, you're young and you have, physically it's all good. But I think in your 30s, you know a lot more, you're a little bit more strategic, and you can put things together and be more creative. But at the same time, you have the physical still and capabilities of doing whatever you want. So, but, unfortunately, the mentality that I thought, or that I had, was, I was watching guys retire when they were in their 20s.
Yeah.
So that didn't leave a good impression on the longevity of a career in skateboarding. By the time I hit 30, I was like, I can't believe I'm on a chocolate tour at a pancake house celebrating my 30th birthday in the morning. I felt like it didn't feel good. I just felt over the hill and like already questioning my future and what am I going to be doing with my life? Like 30 is too old to be a skater, and now 30 is young. So, if only you could just be in the know, in the moment, in the time, instead of having to look back and say, why did I have to like trip so hard? But unfortunately, it's like, yeah, you talk to anybody, everybody feels old, everybody feels over the hill, everybody feels, you know. So I always try to say to anyone younger than myself that's doing the same thing, like, dude, just take advantage now,
Yeah.
man. You're not old. Just like keep it moving. Don't waste time on that bullshit. So
When did you stop drinking?
I stopped drinking in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a few years now,
Yeah.
man. That's sick.
Yeah.
Was it difficult?
Um, was it difficult? Well, at that time, no, because I guess it was just my time. Was it difficult for 20 years before that? Very difficult, yeah. But that time I ended up in treatment once again, and it was just a point in my life when, I had who is my significant other right now, my lady. We just met, and it was someone I didn't want to lose, and I realized, or I had already known for a long time that like I really can't hold on to anything if I continue living like that. So do I want this to work? Yeah. So that was a big kick in the ass to like, get sober, as well as I don't know if necessarily want to get into all that,
Yeah.
but I'd gone through so much shit with drinking that it was just, I exhausted, my like how much longer I can do it. And not to mention I wasn't enjoying it anymore. There was something about it I guess I liked. Maybe it was checking out of life and for whatever reasons, and um but I didn't want to live that way for a long time, and I found it difficult to stop. I would stop for periods of time.
Oh, so you tried stopping before?
I mean, that was my whole thing. Was every time I didn't drink, every time I wasn't drinking, I was trying to not drink, and I would go a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then I would start to drink, and then I would go on. That would go on for however long. But so I was either extremely sober, extremely healthy, or I'd fall off and I'd be a complete pile and just, do my thing drinking and kind of like tuck myself away and disappear. But I wasn't enjoying it. I mean, it was always a struggle. It was, you see your life kind of going backwards, not forwards. And it was just my time to stop, man. And I always thought like, yeah, I see a lot of people around me getting sober, guys I know, people that, and then seeing how their lives turned around, and, the Aves, the guys, and just people that, friends of mine, just personal friends, and how good they were doing. I was like, it looks like if I just got sober, I think things would be good and I'd be all right. And but I just could not. I always thought I'm like the last man to get. Am I the last one in the world to get fucking sober, to be able to get sober? And it felt like that for a while, and then finally, yeah, it just it was my time. So, and then I ended up, having 2 kids, and
That gives you even more of a reason.
it was just like everything started to happen. It was interesting. It was an interesting time. I mean, my biggest fear was like losing sponsors and skateboarding coming to an end for years. That was always the fear. That's always the fear, because that's my life and that's what I do. That's where my money comes from. And then it just so happened that like I went into treatment, I got sober. I still had all my sponsors, but then like COVID came, I was still sober. I lost Nike, didn't re-sign me. And it was the first time not being re-signed for like 18 years with Nike. But at the same time, I knew like that's kind of something I probably need. I need to like some kind of change, some kind of kick in the ass, and then that kind of kicked me in the ass to like get on top of Poets, start a brand, and like just start doing things. And then I just started seeing things start to happen that could probably only happen by being sober and naturally. Not that it was easy to be sober, like it was for the first like year or two, kind of. Because I was just like, wow, I got a year. That's amazing. I always like imagined getting my year cake, like in the program, all that shit. And I did, and it was all happening and it was cool. And then it just started to get hard. Then it started to become like, okay, the vacation sobriety is over. Now it's time to feel like what it's like and who you are and how difficult and maybe why you even began to use substances like from day one, and start to, I don't know, they call that the onion. You're peeling the layers and that takes time. So it's such a ill conversation, sobriety. And, and how it is for me. I'm sure for everyone else that gets sober, and it's like lifelong, and you know, you have your slips and your relapses, but like I feel like once you get sober the first time, something happens, and there's some like, you know, awakening, and some sense of like awareness that can't be denied, and it can't be forgotten either. It can be forgotten. You can relapse, and you can, you know, not so much forget how things used to be, but just get to a point where you feel like you're willing to go back there. But either way, yeah, something happened back in 2018, and it was, I think, something that's going to stick with me forever. And, you know, I don't know where I'm going with that, but
I mean, it works with the pro skating. Like you could be 20, whatever, drinking and be a pro skater and still, like, you have a career, you have checks coming in,
yeah,
you have a real way of making a living, you're traveling the world. It could almost seem like this drinking is actually not fucking getting in the way of shit
yeah.
right now. It's actually not.
Well, for a long time during those days, I thought that's what skateboarding, being a pro, was. Like, going back to what you talked about, the rock and roll lifestyle. Not that it was rock and roll for me or anything like that, but, you know, the partying every night, and like everyone I hung out with or I surrounded myself with was doing the same thing. And it just seemed like it came with the territory. Like, oh, I'm a pro skateboarder. That's what we do. We drink, we party, we do drugs, and, you know, all that shit that comes along with it. And then, you know, then slowly you start to feel like the grips it has on you. And but yeah, it seemed to be that's expected. And I used to blame, I've said this before, I used to blame my first, you know, my first thoughts about substance abuse and drinking and all that stuff. I used to always blame skateboarding. That was my first blame. You know, oh, it's skateboarding, like it fucked me up, it like did this. But you start, you know, it takes a long time. It took a long time for me. I had to fucking start looking at myself and take responsibility for myself. You know, it's not skateboarding, it's fucking, you know, I'm still trying to figure out what it is, you know. So
I can understand blaming skateboarding though.
yeah,
You know, it seems reasonable.
You want to blame everything at first until you start looking at yourself.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, you want to blame your mother, your father, this, that, like everything around you, like. But you know, you got to take responsibility, and that's not easy. I mean,
yeah.
Where
are you at today with skating? How you feeling? You got a lot of shit going on, man. Like, you got your family.
Yeah.
Then you got poets.
Yeah.
You're doing shit with Asics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, running a brand already alone is difficult. And skating and just everything together. How you feeling doing all of that stuff?
I feel okay. I feel good. I feel like, because, you know, going back to when I didn't get re-signed by Nike back in, I think this was 2020, and I'd just gotten sober, and it was like a whole life-changing thing where I was, you know, in a relationship. I was kind of a little bit more sturdy than I'd been in a long time, and I was accepting of like where I was in skateboarding. I had, you know, I'm still down with FA, and like at that point I still was, but FA has been very lax. They always have from day one. They know where I'm at in life, and Jason knows me and how I, you know, what to expect. And like, I don't know, the expectations weren't like crazy. So that was cool. And then, so like, I guess the word organic sort of like pops into my head, because I was skating when I wanted to skate at that point. I didn't, and I always was, but not having Nike as a sponsor, not always feeling like there was something you weren't doing or you had to do, all that was gone, and it felt great. I was like, all right, now I got poets. I could focus on it, and anything skate related, I could just put it towards my own brand, and it's cool. So I felt a little less pressure and whatever. I just felt like I'd retired and in my mind, and I was just skating when I wanted to. But then things started to happen. I was skating more, and I'm trying to think where this started. then I was like buying my sneakers at Target to skate in. Like I didn't want to skate in any brands like Adidas or any skate shoes. I just wanted to skate in some budge like Target, no frills, no branding on them shoes and skate. And then I feel like I don't know if I'm going on with something that doesn't pertain to where this started, but yeah, I just started skating a lot, or I was skating a lot, and I was putting out like some clips on Instagram for whatever, like whether it's FA, myself, poets, and then I was still friends with some people who used to work at Nike, and my friend Casper in particular, and he started working with Asics, which I knew nothing about. I was not up on what was going on in skateboarding, but apparently Asics was beginning to do. They had been making skateboarding shoes, and they had a skateboarding team in Japan for a few years. And so at that time, he was like, "Yeah, I think I might be fucking with Asics and trying to bring it to the States and make like they're gonna come out and try to make a splash and I'll send you some shoes if you're down." Because I think I mentioned like, yeah, I just bought some shoes at Target. I've been skating, and he's like, "What? I'll send you some Asics. Check them out." I was like, "All right." It seemed cool, like Asics. Like you don't see anybody skating in Asics, and I respect the brand. I've always respected the brand. So. You sent me some shoes. I actually liked them. I liked aesthetically how they looked. I wore them. I ended up doing a piece with my friend Chico, who used to ride for Chocolate as well. We did a piece for our brands, Chico Sticks and Poets. Went out to SF, skated, filmed, got a little, we put a little piece together. And then it just turned into like, next thing you know, I'm getting hit up by Asics to get a contract to, and now it's kind of like at that point, like, wow, I've been enjoying not being sponsorless with shoes or, and kind of moving on with my life and doing my own brand. And so I was a little nervous to get involved with a brand like Asics, setting off a new brand. But it was all organic and it felt good. And again, the expectations didn't feel heavy. They knew where I was at. They explained what was expected. And then also at that point, my mentality towards coming through for a brand was a little different. Like I wanted to be more present for a brand and not be so, I look back on the 18 years I rode for Nike, and probably 2/3 of the time I didn't even skate in their skate shoes. I skated in Nikes. And I look back at that now as like disrespectful and sort of like, what the fuck was I thinking? You know what I mean? Although I still will not skate in anything I do not like the way they look. If, I'm very into how aesthetically, if shoes look good, if I'm comfortable with them, and just because they're in a skate line doesn't mean I'm going to wear them and present myself like that. But it worked out, and I find myself wanting to represent them as best I can. And I have a better understanding of like respect for brands that put money into you and have your back and have had your back for a long time. So it's funny. I look back and I wonder, how did Nike even stick by my side for that long? Because I was very anti and I did things different. I skated in non-skate shoes, and I just used to think like, well, it has the swoosh on it, so it's, whatever. But they're trying to sell skate shoes. So yeah, it was just growing up a little bit at my older age. And so now I brought that to Asics, and it's worked out, and it's been good. Like, where am I at with skating? I think, I'm older now. The body, like I read the Dill interview and he said it perfectly. Like the body's changed. The body's not the same. And, sometimes I don't think you realize just how much, but I've realized lately because, like I said, I just got a shoulder surgery. And at this point, at this age, I've been off it now for 4 months. And just those 4 months, I feel very shook to get back into skating. And where am I going to start? And because before the shoulder surgery, it was still difficult. I mean, it's a fucking crazy question, man. I can go on like this. It's a crazy question because there's so much skating that's going on out there. There's so much amazing skating. And for me to be, a professional backing a shoe brand and putting out content for that brand, of course, I still want to compare myself to what's going on out there. And is it worthy, or am I worthy? But then that's unrealistic. So there's always a mental battle. Like, well, dude, you're 51. Like, remind yourself where you're at. you know, but it's just hard again. And I'll probably look back in 20 years and say, I wish I didn't trip so hard and just did me. But like, it just is what it is. And it seems to never go away. I tend to hate everything I put out these days because I'm always critical of, you know, looking good and making sure I'm coming through. And so, yeah, I think the most important thing, I think the thing that stands out the most is I don't like most of the stuff I put out anymore, like for the past 20 years. But I do like the struggle. I do love when I'm in it and I'm skating and I got some things in mind and I'm going out with the filmer and we're going out every morning and coming up on clips. And then like, it's still, there's that feeling that I miss when I'm not doing it. And it's like the battle and feeling like a skater. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I miss that.
I think that one of the reasons that people can be pro skaters and maintain that position as they grow older is the fact that skating is not about like what trick you do necessarily. And it is about style and it is about attitude and it is about something more than just like, oh, I physically did like a triple flip to back tail is not necessarily better than a kick flip to back tail, which actually is not even necessarily better than just a fucking back tail.
Yeah.
And I think that is what that is. That's why someone like Hosoi can still be Hosoi. Yeah. Or a Dill or yourself, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a matter of like, are they doing like, Dill still has a shoe with Adidas too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that shit sells, and like it sells because they're still influenced. They're still like, it's not about like, did he fucking back Smith yesterday or did he back Smith like 2 months ago or 2 years ago? Like, people still get hyped on it. I still get hyped on it, and I think that that's the reason why, which is sick. When I know you said 18 years of Nike, when did you initially get on, and what is it like being on? Like, you think about shoes, you think about Nike, but actually you think about Nike, Adidas, Asics, Converse, and like you've done stuff with a lot of those brands. But in terms of Nike, like, what is that like being on a company of that magnitude?
It was cool. I can't front. It gave me a sense of pride, a sense of like, I am under contract with Nike, although I didn't make a lot of money. It wasn't like I had a contract like a basketball player but still it's Nike. And when they first, when they brought us in to start the skateboard program, it was amazing. And like, of course it's Nike. So you think like, oh, whatever you're getting offered, I'm taking it. I'm good. Yeah, that's fine. And I ran with that for years. I never even negotiated a contract in 16, 18 years. And I look back at that and I'm like, that's interesting. But anyway, yeah, Nike was cool because it's Nike and, the history and, and the what's the right word? I don't know. Like when you get with the first time going to the campus and doing the tour and just being overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed, and not always, but for the first time knowing the back, the behind the scenes of a brand like Nike. And it was pretty exciting. And it always was. It was always cool to know. It just felt like you were at like the most elite, shoe company you could be involved with. And so it was great. It was cool. I had no complaints.
Where's the campus at?
In Beaverton, Oregon.
Okay, yeah, that's where like Phil Knight's from and shit.
I think
that's where he's from.
Yeah, but Beaverton, yeah.
How big is it?
It's big. I mean, is
it like a whole neighborhood?
It feels like a college campus.
Okay.
That's what it feels like. From the outside, you can't even see it because there's these like, the landscaping is like hills in the front the whole way around the whole spot. And and they have, I don't know how many buildings, but maybe 6 to 8 buildings, and they're all named after a specific athlete, like the Pete Sampras building. Yeah. Mia Hamm is where skateboarding used to be in the first days. So it was cool. It was an experience.
They fucking changed skateboarding immensely.
Yeah.
A lot of money getting poured in, and even like the LES park was built by them.
Yeah. They didn't want to throw the money around at first, which was understandable, but then they definitely, they put a lot of effort into skateboarding. I mean, all the rebuilding skate spots from the old days was like, it was cool, but I still would prefer to see the old courthouse rather than the new courthouse.
You're talking about LA, right?
Yeah.
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 I'd rather hear the ledges of the old courthouse rather than the new ledges. That
When did they rebuild that? I skated that shit like 7-8 years ago. So I probably skated the skate park version.
Yeah, if they were metal ledges, then that's the skate. That's after Nike, hooked it up. When was that? I don't know. That over a decade ago.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
No, I definitely skated the skate park version then.
Yeah. It used. I mean, the ledges were shot. I'm sure by the time they came and hooked it up, but there was nothing like the sound of those ledges before that. Yeah. Chunky, like rough kind of marble. I don't know what the hell they were. Cement, but yeah.
So then you've also done shoes with Adidas.
Yeah.
We were talking about the box hog before we started recording and how that's like inspired by a boxing shoe.
Yeah.
How do you go about designing the shit that you design? Whether it be for Adidas, Asics, Poets, whatever, New Balance.
Well, I've never designed a shoe from the ground up, so I don't know how that would be. That's all a mystery to me, although I would love to do that one day. But just existing silhouettes and colors and materials, it's pretty easy. Just whatever you like, whatever taste I guess I like, things I like. I've always kept it simple, but I've had it was cool because going back to after my days at Nike, then being kind of like free to do whatever I want and having my brand, it was a good time because then I could reach out to Adidas. I could reach out to people and want to do projects with them, and I was capable of doing it for the first time, and it was an interesting time because like I just said with the Asics story, how that came about. It was all sort of the same time that I'd been working on this Adidas shoe. We were doing a Samba and the boxing shoe. Asics was just about to launch, and I'd signed the contract with them. And then New Balance, I was doing a shoe with Tiago for Poets, and that was kind of all like around the same time. So it was a really strange. I was cool with it, but like outside looking in, it was like, what's up with this dude? Like, he's doing a shoe with this, doing a shoe with that, and but I was very grateful. I mean, I was like, and it was great because now I'm able to do that. I was able for a minute it felt like it, having a brand and not being under contract with anybody. So fuck it, I'll do a shoe with anybody if I'm down for the company, and and if they're down to do something with my brand, then let's do it. So yeah.
So now you're with Asics.
Yeah.
And how's that been?
Asics is awesome. I love it. They have a great squad. All the guys behind the scenes are amazing. The team is cool. It's such an odd variety of skaters, which is amazing. I don't know, creatively, I think they're doing a good job at presenting the brand, and I'm happy, man. I've been happy with them since day one, and I have no complaints. I'm still here. I'm still like, down with them, and I'm 51, and I'm, I plan to still skate a bit and like hopefully come through for them. And yeah.
The first time I really became aware of Asics, I've always been aware of them just because they're a big brand. But the first time they really was like, whoa, I want a pair. I went to Paris on like a skating trip, and I saw mad of the fucking just local people wearing tracksuits with Asics.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, what the fuck? They kind of stood out there. And then I became really aware of them. And I never thought. Then I started seeing them in skating, and I was like, oh shit, dude. The homie Kyoto skates for them.
Yeah.
Or at least he gets shoes from them. I don't know like what the deal is, but
yeah,
it's dope.
I think he's on this team.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
I think he is.
He's been on a few trips that I've been on, and it seemed like, yeah.
Oh, you guys went on trips together?
Yeah.
How was that? Where'd you guys go?
We went to the first trip was Japan. We went there for the first trip to get everybody together, the whole team. And that was awesome. That was amazing. I went with my kid and my lady was 6 months pregnant with my second kid. And it was just a memorable trip. But yeah, we went on that trip, and then we did France, we did Paris, and then Portland and LA. That's about it for now. Yeah.
That's sick, man. That's sick that y'all are both on the same team. It's fucking wild, dude.
Yeah. I never knew. I mean, all these guys were the first time I met all of them. I mean, I'd never met any of them before. So, Brent, Monica, Shay, all these guys. It was all, you know, Emil. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of poets,
Mm-hmm.
what do you do with that now? How much of your day to day does that take up? And what do you hope for it? When I look at poets, I see a brand that
Yeah.
is very you. You know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna
Yeah.
make shit that you actually like,
Yeah.
regardless whether it be the hockey thing, or I know you guys have made a jump rope
Yeah.
and stuff like that. That
Yeah.
is kind of outside of the box.
Mm. Well, I don't know. When I'm asked that question, I always get stuck because like, what do I want? I want it to be successful. I want to make money. I want to, you know, support my family, support myself and my family, and just be comfortable. And I hope it can get there. I, you know, I also like, you know, being before starting it as a brand, you know, and just doing the skate thing for so long.
Because it was a skate shop at first.
It was a shop, yeah.
Okay,
Started
yeah.
as a shop. I had 2 locations at 2 different times for a couple of years, and that didn't really work out. I wasn't that fond of owning a shop, but yeah, man, you know, being a skater and having so much time on your hands to fuck off and just like skate when you want, and that's how I rolled. And I don't know, it just I didn't benefit from it, and it just felt good to start the brand and actually feel like I was busy and I was working and doing things, and it just has grown into more. It's just gotten busier and busier now that I'm wholesaling. I'm selling to shops. I'm making lines, and so it takes up like 24 hours of my day up here. But physically, you know, I can go a couple of days not doing anything, or I can go day after day, constant. But again, going back to, you know, having the kids and structure, and it can be difficult, you know, to figure out times and when to squeeze in a few hours to do this, to do that. But yeah, that's pretty much what occupies most of my time, upstairs and physically.
It's poets.
Yeah, it's poets. Yeah.
It's something that you could think about straight up all day long.
Yeah. And I kind of hate it sometimes because I don't want to be taking work home.
It's never ending.
It doesn't end. I could be in my bed in the morning, at night, and, you know, I'm looking at, you know, just everything to do with the brand, and it's just constant. And sometimes it's like, wouldn't it be nice to just punch a clock, go to work, punch out, go home, and that's it? And like, I've fantasized about that for a long time, but then there's that, like, could you actually do it though?
No,
you know?
you'd probably fucking hate it.
You know, but there's that part of me that wants that just like to be able to check out and not have to be thinking about things that I'm thinking about that I do not want to think about. You know, I don't need to have these people or this thing on my mind at this time in my, like, you know, of day, or I don't know. And I think that's also like Instagram. It's also, you know, I don't know. No offense to anybody, but I don't need to be thinking about a lot of these people on a daily basis, you know?
Yeah. But doing something like poets will make you think about them.
Yeah.
At least to some degree.
Yeah.
Because they're going to see it. People are
Yeah.
going to see it, and you want people to purchase it. You want people to
Yeah.
fuck with what you're doing. So when you're
Yeah.
making something, you're not just making it for yourself as much as you try to make it for yourself. You're also making it so other people fuck with it to some degree.
Yeah. 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 So just try to be as genuine as possible. And, you know, it's hard being consistent because just how much, you know, you have to feed yourself. It seems like, you know, you have to feed yourself. The more you feed yourself, I'm looking at your bookshelf and I'm like, if I read every one of those books, I could probably get like a lot of ideas for art, for this, for that. And if it's things that I'm into, that I read and I'm like passionate about, then that's when content becomes kind of easy and just flows through you and comes out.
Yeah.
Right. And, yeah. So if I'm not feeding myself and I'm just kind of basing everything off of my past, and you can get stuck easily and, you know, stuck on stupid and all that.
Are you trying to, when you making clothes, you know, you're doing a line and stuff, are you looking at other brands and what they're doing and trying to separate yourself from that? Because there's so many brands now. Like, there's so many brands now. It's actually crazy.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to just be one of the however many. And I think that you achieve being unique just by being authentic to yourself, because then it's hard to replicate when it's really you. But
that's great to hear, man, because like, yeah, it's true. There is a lot of brands out there. Do I look at them? Yeah, occasionally I will. I really have no interest in most of the brands, just because I would rather go to like an Army Navy store and buy a thermal and a t-shirt. And so the other, like, yeah, I tend to look more at like how they present themselves and what kind of content they're putting out. And, um, but I don't know. I don't know if I absorb it as much as maybe, the next man would.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I try to just do me, and yeah, man.
Not think about it too much.
No, because I mean, a lot of the brands, it's sometimes baffles me. Like, are you really putting this much shit out? Like, is it actually selling? Like,
Yeah.
you look at your website and there's like 100 pieces, and it's like all cut and sew. And how often are you doing this? Like, I mean, is this stuff really selling? Or how? It's just kind of nuts. But
It doesn't make sense.
I don't know. I mean, if they are, God bless. And but that, that would obviously require a team. And, when I'm doing this all myself. And,
You do it 100% yourself.
100% at the moment. Well, I have someone that I'm working with that does sales, and
Okay.
yeah, he's been a big help.
For like stores that you carry in.
Yeah. And on top of that, just like with anything, we talk a lot and go back and forth with ideas, and it's been great. But yeah, as far as selling stores, he's been in the business for a long time, and I got with him back in January. I had a partner with Poets initially for the since day one in 2017, and we kind of parted ways like about a year and a half ago. So I took over doing everything, back end stuff, and as well as creative, and I always did all the creative. So
It's a lot to handle.
it is, yeah. I mean, it's a small scale right now, so I guess I'm doing it, and I'm capable of doing it, but it is a lot. Who wants to do invoicing and like, all that kind of back end stuff?
Emails.
That I'm a mess. I'm a complete mess when it comes to emails and organization and all that shit. Like, yeah, so that can be hard for me. Yeah.
How often are you on social media?
Well, now I got in the habit of deleting my Instagram and having it off my phone.
Okay.
So I'll go on it. It's funny, when I first did that, I went like weeks where like I was kind of going days without even checking in on it. And then that felt great. And then, then I need to post something, and then I find myself, popping it back up on my home screen and then like deleting it again. And so I'm in that phase right now of like kind of trying to not be on it. But when it's on, I guess how often, I guess throughout the day, it's hard to say. I don't know how many hours, but like
I deleted my shit off my phone too.
Yeah.
Like the app.
Yeah.
Just because it gets fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
You just start like nervous tick checking that shit all day long.
Yeah, sometimes I can get into holes of like comedy shit, like, bloopers and things like that, and I'll have some fun staring at it. But then sometimes I'm like, I realize when I'm in a hole and I'm like, holy shit, get this thing away from me.
Yeah.
So I don't know, dude. Like, yeah, the whole balancing, all that stuff is, I don't know. It's a whole nother thing. I don't think I'm nuts with Instagram though. I mean, yeah.